Team Liquid has lost one series, and it was to Maryville, the number 2 seeded team. They have lost one series since February 9th.
The start of it, pretty much.
Yeah, that's like
So like,
that was 6 weeks ago. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Salt Mine. I did not check our count before we started recording this time, but this is Season 3, Episode 8. We've made it the full 8 here, just a little bit after the season has ended. Skipped too many episodes this season to really know exactly where we're at off the top of our head. I'm Gordo. I'm going to be joined on this episode by just TDS, and we don't have assets for a two-person show. Slayer's on vacation, so we're going to have the Gromp over here to join us for the night. Probably not offer too many opinions, just going to be chatting about the first week of playoffs, chatting about the last week of Aegis, and yeah, probably shouldn't be too long of one. But in NACL news, before getting into the games themselves, we do have some announcements about additional award categories this split,
yep.
so they're stealing our thunder a little bit. TDS, they got an official All Pro team coming out off the back of us releasing ours. They're also doing Rookie of the Split and Most Improved of the Split. I believe those were the announcements. We got to be part of that announcement video, by the way, so shout out to the folks on NACL. That was really cool
We were
to
on
get
the
to
big
record.
screen for a bit.
What was that?
We were on the big screen for a tiny
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, just like I don't know, that's bigger audience than this show's ever gotten. So you know what? I'll take it. Thanks to the
True.
guys over at NACL for having us on for that. Much appreciated. Some credit was given over to Cubby by Camcom, and I'm choosing to believe that that's true. So shout out to Cubby and everyone else over there. It was super cool to be a part of. I figure we can get in on the action. If they're going to steal away our All Pro, we can snag Rookie of the
Yep.
Split and we can snag Most Improved. We talked a little bit about potential Rookie of the Split last week, but in lieu of doing a traditional Player of the Week, who do you think would be your Rookie of the Split here, TDS?
So I want to confirm something. Is Rookie a player that has been playing for a while and finally reached NACL, or is he actually does he have actually have to be a rookie that it's his first stint in relative pro play?
I haven't seen their categories. I would assume it is first split in NACL or equivalent. So, like, if they had played
Okay.
Academy before, like, I would say Chad doesn't count because Chad has played a bunch of
Yeah.
splits of Academy. But you know, guys that have been grinding for a while and just got into NACL, though, those guys counts. Like Daption, I would say counts, even though
Okay. Yeah,
Daption
that
has
seems fair.
even like, and I would say like probably general LCS rules. It's like if you've played less than half a season total or something. So like,
Okay.
if Mobility were to hypothetically join the league, I would say he would count as a rookie as well, even though he played like most of a split with Evil Geniuses.
He played kind of a split.
Yeah. So those are the rules
That
that
was
I'm
a
going to go
weird
with.
split.
And I guess I can answer
Yeah.
first. I think this one gets almost too easy to the point that I feel like we should do like a second or third too. But it's got to be Sishad, right? I think it's
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like it's the logical answer. Like it's between him and Toasty in my eyes, right? Like it's Toasty or Ziyad, the one that gets away with a rookie. And Ziyad, to me, he was already the best AD carry in my eyes. So it gets even more credit for him to be the number one or the rookie of the split.
Yeah, I think Sijed is an easy lock for this award. I don't think it's too exciting of a category this time, and it should be like an exciting category. I think it's just Sijed is head and shoulders above the rest pretty clearly, and is also blessed to be in the position that he's in on such a competitive team that it's really hard to look past him towards other candidates. I would say, yeah, Toasty, I think, is probably my second. I think Daption deserves a little bit of a look in like that second, third category. My pick would be Toasty. I would not blame you for giving consideration towards Daption. And I think that's pretty much it. Like all of the lit
Is
guys are contenders, I suppose. Like as far as other
Yeah,
candidates, like
technically.
all of the lit guys. I don't think Aaron counts, so I don't think
Aaron played in the
he came
remember
in halfway
the
through for CLG Faith.
Yeah, CLG
Yeah.
phase
So
a year
but that was
ago.
like most
So
of the season. So I would say Aaron counts as not a rookie. I'm trying to think. Let me go look at rosters. Maybe there's a player we're forgetting. But obviously all of the Lick guys. Um, none of the Mirage Alliance guys, notably based on the rules we set earlier. Um,
if they kept the roster that it was originally going to be, Scoop could have been.
Scooped would have
Yep.
counted had he been here. Yeah. Yeah, and then I really hope they don't count Quad or Roamer. So, with that in mind, yeah,
They technically, well, no, they didn't count it for rookie, but they did count them for MVP, right? Because Mir did
yeah,
win.
surely they will be contenders for MVP because guys like Mir have been before.
Yeah,
Um but yeah, surely they do not count for rookie the split. So yeah, it's kind of just it's Dapchin, Toasty, Sejed, and the 5 Lick guys. Those are the
yeah,
contenders. So yeah,
pretty much that's
easy
it.
Sejed, and then like discussion to be had between Dapchin and Toasty from there on out. That's not a
Yeah, my
super
number
exciting.
one is Toasty,
What was that?
but like my number one after Syed is Toasty. Like I
Yeah,
just
I
have
think
more
that's true for
inclination for
me
Toasty.
too. I would go Toasty number 2, and then Sejed number 1, and Dapchin probably number
Yeah.
3, and then the lit guys in whatever order. I'm not going to go that much deeper in. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to like talk myself up on like a Dragoon or something, and I can't. Not over Dapchin or Toasty. So.
Yeah, the problem is Lid didn't impress enough for me to say yeah this because I was one that was really high with Rock Boom before,
Hmm.
but like
And he was fine.
he just simply yeah he simply wasn't enough for me to say he's over the other guys.
Yeah.
Which obviously like even just taking out Ziyad and Toasty, like you're saying, Daption looked really good. I would
Yeah.
put Daption over everyone else as well.
Easily over all the lit guys. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to see. We'll talk more about lit when we start getting over to the promotion tournament. But yeah, I think those would be the 3. Then most improved. That gets a little bit more open, right? There's a lot more names available here. At first, I thought this was going to be a lot more entertaining of a category, and then I realized
Yeah.
I think there's probably like 2 guys to pick from, and I have a feeling we're each gonna pick different ones. Um,
I
because
thought we
I
were going to be the same actually, but
are you gonna
there's a
pick
good chance.
Scary Jerry?
Okay, you no, I went for his partner. I
Oh,
went for
really? Okay, I
Psycho.
did too. So then we're both going Psycho. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because it would have to be Psycho. I would have put you on Scary Jerry, but I guess you had Scary Jerry in your All Pro last season. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
liked Scary Jerry already. I was convinced with his performance. I think my camera froze.
go.
But like, yeah, that's fine. So yeah, Psycho, because I think that Psycho last played, it wasn't like he was holding back Scary Jerry or anything like that, but it was more so that he was not up there with what I was expecting to see from their performance, especially because MU started so well, but they ended up going down really quickly, and I think the downwards trajectory affected so much Psycho's performance. But this time around, he became much more consistent. He played much better in a lot of the situations, and he kind of proved me wrong in a way that I wasn't expecting, which was how was he going to play without Odd Orange as well? Because I think that a lot of the dynamics last year were how they played together. But this time around, without Odd Orange, he just performed really, really well still and was able to bring his game up a level. So I think Psycho to me is the player that I'm was more impressed with his performance this split in terms of improving.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's like I wonder how much of it is like a meta, how much of it is like him rediscovering himself and being like a different kind of player.
Yeah.
Because it felt like, I mean, even last year he was kind of he was more of he was more successful, I suppose, on Enchanters than he was on the engage heavy stuff. Like his most played
Yep.
last year was Rel, but he was not very successful on it. The champions that he was most successful on were he had 4 games of Yumi and he won 3 of them. And he had 1 game of Renata, which is the champ that I really associate with him now.
Yeah.
He won that 1 game of Renata last year. And now this year he's been playing the Renata and the Melio a whole bunch. Like those are his most selected. I think his Nautilus and his Rel have been like very good as well, but I just think there's like there's a standout performance for sure on the Renata, especially, which has been absolutely nuts. I think D'Amelio's been really good when he's playing those Lucian lanes with Scary Jerry, and then he's even gotten to show us some other stuff. Like he's shown the Ashe a little bit, he showed the Lulu a little bit. Like I think he's been pretty good on those as well. So I guess I have a little bit of a concern that it could be meta related because there's a
Could be.
small enough pool of engagers with enough variance in the results that you can, realistically say like, oh well, obviously getting Yuji and Spyrax in here was going to make the team
Y-
better. So it's like
Yeah.
it's not a one-to-one comparison between last year, but can only judge what we saw, and what we saw was very good. So, and not
Yeah.
it's not like he's leader, like ripping off totally off meta stuff, not playing the meta champs, right? It's like he's playing like the Nautilus and the Rel and the Rakan, and he just leans towards those enchanters that he's so successful on, and they make it work.
Yeah, and I want to say that's part of the strength that I think coming into this year did impact the Psycho, because it's one thing if you're good at one style of champions, but if you can add the pool of other champions into your playstyle, that can be so beneficial for your team. And like you're mentioning, it's not his preferred playstyle. Probably they are not his top performing champions, nor is he excelling at them. But the fact that he's already able to add them onto the pool and have them be, at the very least, serviceable to a really good enough level that you can play them professionally or in this level, it's good enough for Psycho, and I think that's good enough for the team as well. So overall, I really like that improvement that he was able to add onto his champion pool. And then once again, he kind of elevated the fact that he's not taking away from Scary Jerry being the AD carry that he is, and instead he's adding on to the playstyle from the bot lane. We saw multiple 2v2 kills in situations where we weren't expecting at all, and it came from the back of Psycho having good engages and also following up on Scary Jerry having the aggression as well.
Yep. And he's shown us like it's a little late for this. This should be a regular season award, but he's gotten to show a little bit more in the playoffs as well. Like they played their first Senna Tom Kench game
Yeah.
in these playoffs up against DSG. There was one Senna game way earlier in the season where like Zyko was the one playing it. Um and he like played it with Scary Jerry Varus. It was like a pure
Yeah.
support Senna. It was very strange. Um they won that game, but it was very strange nonetheless. But this was like this last weekend was the first time we've gotten to see them play like a very traditional like Senna Tom Kench, which is like a really big pillar of the meta right now. So cool to see them bust that out. They were successful on that one up against Disguised. So all in all, pretty happy about that one. Um,
Yep.
yeah, and yeah, very little to be upset about there, I would say, as far as how they've been able to perform for themselves thus far. Or no, it couldn't have been against Disguise. Did they play? Oh, they did. They played against Disguise. They
They
lost to
played this guys.
Disguise. They
Yeah.
played Disguise in the first round. So yeah, that would have been the first match they played this weekend. So
Yep.
glad to see it out of him. Glad to see it, and excited to see more of Scary Jerry in these playoffs, where he is still competing, and Zyko as well. And with that, let's get into the first round of playoffs, which were run through last weekend. Um, kind of want to breeze through round one a little bit because it just felt so weird. But I mean, there's
Yeah, there
definitely
were
got to be some games to
surprises.
talk about, right?
Exactly, because there were surprises. Like nobody expected to see MU fall down so early on to the lower bracket. But we did kind of talk about this last week. Remember, we were talking about surprises or things that we were kind of looking forward to into playoffs. And I feel like almost everyone, maybe not to the degree that was shown there, but I do remember we talked about both DSG and TL had the chance to surprise because they were ramping up coming into playoffs. TL particularly, I would say I feel everyone was more in line with TL being better than maybe people were putting them going into playoffs than they were before. And now it's shown they're pretty much reaching the grand final, the upper bracket finals just like that. And then DSG, which was inconsistent to say the least, it still has the players and had the ramping up as well. So they were able to take it to MU like they did in the first round.
Yeah, I feel like I think everybody had a different like call for a team they thought would do better than expected, and I think everybody was pretty much right. I guess except for did Slayer vouch for Wildcard? I feel like Slayer
I
probably
think he
vouched for
did.
Wildcard, and
Yeah, I think it
Wildcard, I
did.
think, kind of came back to earth a little bit. Um, so I mean, I can plant my flag there. I think, but like everybody showed up, I think, really well. Like
Yeah.
AOE was an inch away. They were a Sejed Aphelios quadra-kill in front of the Nexus away from just losing that series and having AOE move on the winner's side, which would have been absolutely nuts. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, Wildcard Fear was a banger. I think Maryville Disguised was very, very close as well. Disguised just barely eking out there. I think Supernova Team Liquid Challengers is pretty close too. Definitely a lot of room for all those series to go either way, and it feels like there was so much parity in the league all season long. Like all these records
Yep.
were so close to each other, and like FlyQuest and Maryville were the only exceptions, and they just get dragged right into that nonsense in the first week of playoffs, and nearly the whole bracket's just fucked up. I mean, like it could have been
Yep.
Fly Challengers down there, and then it's like, who's even your favorite anymore at that point? Like it would have been
Well,
absolutely nuts.
we could have been our top three of the NACL could have been already fighting for their lives
Yep.
in the lower bracket.
Yeah.
And one of them could have been eliminated immediately, or one of them is already eliminated immediately because of how the bracket works. So like it would have been really weird if Fly C would have been in that situation. That being said, I do think that this probably was a good wake up call for teams like Fly C and MU because they like you're mentioning, they kind of breezed through the regular season without really ignoring. Obviously, there were matches that were closer, but they kind of breezed through the regular season. And having this early wake up call in playoffs probably is really beneficial for them because they now can set themselves up better for the continuation of it. MU was a victim of it. FlyC was nearly a victim of it, but they kind of edged it out at the end. And that's why when you look at how the rest of the matchups went, it kind of makes sense why MU kind of dismantled as any in the way that they did.
Absolutely. I think Supernova kind of had like the worst bracket draw imaginable,
Yep.
right? Like with TL kind of peaking at the right time, and that was not like a unpopular take that TL had substantially improved towards the back end of the season, right? Like Romer clearly figured out his footing and was like a lot more synced
He
up with the
learned a
rest of the
bit of
squad.
English.
Yeah, either he learned a bit of English or they figured it out. Like they've got some kind of pigeon language going on where
Yeah.
they can put it all together. But yeah, they definitely look like they've really stepped up their ability to play as a team. I mean, Spawn and Kim Down look like day and night as well. Like I think Spawn is really
100%.
Spawn clearly looks a lot more comfortable. I don't I still, and I mean, maybe it is just like a confidence thing. It's like, I still stand by like Spawn. There are two totally different versions of Spawn, and they're like entirely based on how strong the team around him is. Like, when he is on a team that is like strong and successful and contending in the league, he looks like a fantastic player. And then when his team is struggling, he looks terrible. And like, I think that was the case on like Team Fish Taco or his time in the LCS with Dignitas. But then when he was on
Yep.
like the Dignitas Academy teams, he always looked very good when he got to pair up with like a Diamond or a JJ or somebody. Um, and now I feel like he's starting to look like that guy more. Whereas earlier in the season, it felt like he was looking like the other guy.
Yeah, at the very least, he's kind of discovering himself in a way that we were maybe not expecting, but looking forward to more so. Because Spawn is a really weird player in a way. Like I don't know why he reminds me of Keith McBrave, and this is a name for people that know League for a while, and there may be newer fans that don't know this, but he wasn't necessarily a bad player, but he was a player that you needed for a certain kind of situation. Like he wasn't a consistent starting player, but he wasn't a bench player either. He was just there at the right time for multiple teams, and he delivered most of those times. Like I don't think ever I saw a bad performance coming in by him, but he also wasn't a player that you wanted to keep in your roster for longer than necessary. So it's just that Spawn in my mind kind of got into that spot where it's fine if you have him, but you don't want to keep him longer than what you need him for. And now he kind of is or maybe he's improving to the point that maybe I can see him finally reaching that or stepping over that. It may take him a bit more, But if he gets over that, then that now you can begin having a conversation of can he go into the LCS? Can he be a starter? Can he look more aggressive? That's the kind of thing that I'm looking for, Spawn, because the impression that I had before of him is that of the in between play.
I do wonder if there's an argument to be had that Supernova there should be some kind of selection process where you like seed your own bracket and pick your opponents as the higher seed rather than it just being automatically determined by seed. Like either like top four, bottom four, like Fly gets to choose first, then Maryville gets to choose, then Supernova gets to choose, then Wildcard gets left with whatever's left. Or like FlyQuest Challengers gets to choose between Disguised or AoE, and then like Supernova gets to choose between Fear and TL, something like that. Like, I wonder if
Okay.
there's an argument to be had for some kind of format change like that when like Wildcard, Cincy Fear, Team Liquid Challengers, and Disguised were all 4-win teams. Like they were all neck and neck in the bracket, in the score line. They get tie broken on game record,
Yep.
and Supernova gets arguably the hardest of those teams. And I mean, it kind of sucks for them because then they have to play Maryville in the lower bracket, who I guess, to be fair, like probably should not have lost to Disguised.
Yeah.
Most would argue, but
Yeah.
the fact that
And
they
that's the thing,
do
though.
kind of throws the whole bracket into a tizzy, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that I was going to look for because technically you could say that in a single round, in a single bracket, then you can make that sort of adjustment. But I would say more so in the double elimination bracket, you need to change the way that the seeding goes after the elimination,
Mm-hmm.
because then the scenario comes in. Like I don't like the fact that they have the predetermined bracket for MU DSG loser goes against Supernova TLC loser,
Mm.
because it already kind of sets up that sort of really difficult game. Like I think they should have moved. For example, it should have been MU on the side of AOE or double
Yeah, it
or
should have been
wildcard.
MU AoE and Supernova Wildcard.
Yeah, yeah, because they have the higher seed. Like I don't think it's fair that you put seed 2 and 3 on the same side, and then you have the seed. This is 4 and 5, right? No,
Yeah.
4 and 8 on the lower bracket. Like you're in this case, you benefit the lower seed, which I don't think it's fair because you're pitting the higher seeded teams against each other. Obviously, they probably don't know that this is happening, but like you have to give the priority to the higher seeds because that's how you keep the competition closer in that sense. If they get eliminated by a lower seed, well, they probably should have been eliminated. But if you have this situation where you have a picking team in TLC that okay, they clearly show that they are good and they deserve to be in the upper bracket finals, but then you have to face the number 2 seed that also lost, then it just feels like SN is just grabbing the worst side out of everyone, and then you have AOE that they were in a match that they kind of expected they were going to lose, but then they go against Wildcard. That's an opponent that everyone wants to take if they go into the lower bracket.
Yeah, I do think that is. Yeah, that's a fair argument. I do think maybe. I think their concern there is that the way the bracket is structured is to minimize rematches.
Yeah,
So like you don't, because it's because the top half of the bracket, right? AOE and Wildcard lose there, and then they're set up that their losers round two will be against the loser from the lower half of the bracket, winner
yeah,
side round two, right? So AoE having beaten Wildcard, they now play Disguised rather than playing Fear because Fear was already on their side of the bracket. So like arguably they could have played Fear. Um, or like if you imagine Wildcard had won instead of AoE, you don't want Wildcard to have
yeah.
to play like Fear again already, right? You want them to play DSG to maximize the opportunity that like the best teams
We see
possible
multiple
make top
matches.
four and top three and all
Yeah,
that. Um, so it gets a little complicated, but I do agree. I think maybe it just comes back to the regular season format's bad, and maybe we just need more games in the regular season because it's like it all just comes
yeah.
back to like Team Liquid would not have been sixth seed had there been like another week of matches at least. Like they lost 4 out of the 5 matches they lost in the first 4 weeks.
Or if they get more consistent play, right? Because we need to remember that there were teams that had like 5 games in the first 3 weeks, and then there were like teams that had two. So if they were more consistent, maybe we saw something different in terms of how results shaped, for example. But
Yeah.
like, I feel like also to me they have to make seats value be more valuable because the problem with this is that yes, technically speaking, the first seed plays against the eighth seed, and then same with second and seventh. So the advantage there technically is that the higher seed plays the lower seed. But this is not taking into account anything extra. This is just saying
Well, it's not.
one
It's not
against
taking into
eight.
account how fucked up the seating is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's not taking into account anything. So like you have to make seating be more valuable because at the end of the day, and this is a perfect time to bring the metaphor from football up because in my country for the league, there the number one and number eight teams qualify, and there is a statistic that the number one team that qualifies more times than less loses the league. Like they are not champions because the seeding after that point doesn't matter. After you get to 1 and 8, you qualify. It's an entire new tournament, so it doesn't really matter what you did in the previous round because everything from that point onwards is new. And more times than less, or not more times, but a lot of times we've seen teams coming in from eighth be champions, teams coming in from fifth be champions. So the fact that the seeding doesn't have this sort of more meaningful impact in how the competition goes, it kind of takes away from the value of actually being the best team. And I think that should be something to look into because I think Fly C should have more priority being the number one seed. Same from Maribel that were able to reach second seed, but they pretty much are technically gonna be screwed. We're gonna be screwed because, like, we looked at Supernova, right? But now look at the side on Maribel. They played second seed, they play fourth seed, and then more than likely they are playing DSG again, and then they play Fly C or TLC. Like the road to finals from the side of Maryville or Supernova is pretty fucked up.
Yep. I mean, they had a they would have had an easier time if they beaten Disguised, but
Yeah,
yeah,
true.
but no, I
That's
mean,
all true.
I think the Team Liquid one is like the most egregious. The fact that Supernova had to play Team Liquid round one, just because I
Yeah,
think very few team people would have put them sixth seed coming into it. Like Team Liquid has lost one series, and it was to Maryville, the number two seeded team. They have lost one series since February 9th.
the start of it, pretty much.
Yeah, that's like
So
that
like,
was 6 weeks ago. Like they've lost one series since then. It's just they had they had a rough first couple of weeks, and it's so hard to break out of that. Like when you start 1-3 the way that they did, uh, or 1-4. They started 1-4, right?
we started one and
Yeah, they
four.
started one
Yeah,
and four.
one
At
and
the end
four.
of week 4, they were 1-4. Yeah, like you start 1-4, and it's like you are I mean, and that's the thing, and then it's like other teams suffer, like it spills over,
Yeah,
right? Now it's like Team Liquid doesn't care. Team Liquid beats whoever you put in front of them. It's Supernova that really suffers, and props to Team Liquid, right? Play better, win
yeah, they
more.
play great.
Play better, win more, just win. All the other go-to sayings in the NA scene, but yeah, I mean, for Supernova, it kind of sucks, right? And it's like I don't think anybody really believes that like Supernova were a seventh, eighth place team. I think most people think they could have done much better than that. Just gotta
Yep.
short it to the stick of the schedule.
Also, another thing I wanna like I dislike is that we have very few BO5s because they start after at round three, which I
Yes.
think it's only four BO5s in total, which I think it's kind of unlucky. I would have loved to see the Fly Sphere go to a BO5 or be a BO5 or
Mm-hmm.
DSG TLC be a BO5, right? Like those matches, they were still close enough that you can guarantee that you can wear in a BO5, and I don't think they take away that much time from your schedule. Maybe I'm wrong on this one, but I feel like those would have been great matches to start a BO5 from because
Yeah,
technically
you
they are
just have to
winner
be more
semis.
willing to play on non-LCS days, which I don't know why they're not.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
like
just
they
play,
are not taking advantage of
like
that
yeah,
really.
play like Wednesday. Yeah, like play Tuesday. Play every day. Play like Tuesday. Play Monday,
Yeah,
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
I'm pretty
Saturday,
sure teams
Sunday.
wouldn't mind that much
Well,
as
and
long
it's
as
like
they
you have
get
one
more
series a
time to
day,
play.
right? It's like you have
Exactly.
play one series a day. Play on non-LCS days, or I mean, you could do two BO5s on non-LCS days too. You could fit that in. No, I agree. I think the whole thing should be BO5s. I don't get why we're messing around with so
Yeah.
many
I hope
BO3s.
I hope that this is all just set like obviously this was kind of and it's a similar thing to what happened with Okies, but I hope this is all setting up so that in summer after seeing what the changes brought, they can make more according changes to it. like the duration of the BO5s or things like that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think everybody's just kind of waiting to see Fearless BO5s, right? Because those things are going
Yeah,
to get to be crazy. So, yeah, I think everybody's looking forward to that. We'll get our first one with
really sad that
PLC versus
Shochi is not going
YC.
to be in the Fearless BO5.
Oh my god, no Shochi in Fearless BO5. I feel like Shochi has not been like the crazy mad scientist this split though that he was in the
Yeah,
past.
he's been more consistent on his picks, sadly.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the parts why Supernova kind of failed, quote unquote. It's that Shochi's variety brought so much to the table that I think this time around we didn't see enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a combination of things. I think it was some tough matchups. I think it was some
Yeah,
tough draws, right? Like I think you could have beaten Team Liquid on a different day, right? Had a couple of things gone a little bit differently. Keel's Kindred doesn't get super fed in that game 3 or whatever. You
true.
know, you can hope to play things out a little differently, but excuses. They lost to two other teams, so they will be going home. And yeah, I hope they don't make too many changes for summer. I hope they don't, or for summer. Jesus,
Yeah,
because
now it's pretty much summer.
yeah, I hope it doesn't. I hope they don't overreact to these things and like tear apart the
Yep.
roster because I don't think there's anything I would like demand to change about this team. I think I would give them more time and trust that they will be able to do better next time.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to change, but that's the thing that now you have to consider with some of these teams, right? There's the like we knew Lead and Mirage season was over. But well, it's not over. They still have to play the relegation, but their NACL season it's kind of quote unquote over. But this actual or not season split, but this is actually the split being over for 4 teams already. With
Yep.
or for 2 teams, sorry, for Supernova and for Wildcard.
Yep.
And I think neither of those two, like, who would you realistically change from wildcard that you think it's an improvement? Maybe Aaron, if you get another AD carry, but like,
I mean, I would
who would
assume
it
that they
be?
won't change anything just because they're the SLU team. Um, so
Yeah,
I would think
exactly.
they're going to keep that collegiate core together. Um,
So the only like that's the thing, right? Like, and this is going to be more prevalent with some of these collegiate rosters is unless they are in their roster, I don't think they're going to make a lot of changes because Judy and Spyrax came into Maryville, right? Like they are Maryville students, so that's a change they are willing to make. But unless they are not students, I think we're going to see less changes to some of these rosters that are more
yeah.
collegiate oriented.
One, it's like attracting them to your, especially if you're not Maryville, right?
Yeah,
Attracting a student to your college is only like half the battle because if they're too good, they will just play for a better team rather than for your college. Because
exactly.
the SLU's top laner is not Quacker, it's Surdy. But Surdy's not
But
messing
he's
around
a
on this
fly.
wild card
Yep.
team. Yeah, it's so yeah, it's an interesting balancing act that I think it will be interesting to watch it grow because now we've already not to get too deep into promotion tournament. That's in like a month. That we'll have a whole episode on that, as we always do. But Ole
Yep.
Miss is locked in. Winthrop is locked in. Those collegiate teams are coming, baby. Like they're trying to get in. I don't think Ole Miss will make it, but I think Winthrop will. And yeah, that's just stuff to keep your eyes on. And Ole Miss could always make the run. Lit made the run last time. That means Ole Miss can make the
Yep.
run this time.
When no one believed in them,
Yeah, I
essentially.
mean that's the thing. It's like it's just one. It's just two like BO5s. It's two BO5s. I think
Yep.
it's not unthinkable for them to be able to win out on those. I wouldn't call it likely, but they can come in on the day and be able to make it happen.
Make everyone eat their words, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with those teams out, it's kind of weird how like I don't see any change on them either. So like it's pretty weird thinking about that. And then looking at the remaining rosters, I just don't think that there's anyone that you would want to change over. Like unless one of the relegated teams you were
Well,
really liking one of their
Mirage has
players,
already
and
announced
that's
some
yeah.
changes
Yeah,
in their effort
that's
to
an
stay in,
interesting one.
and we'll chat about those in the promotion series. But like, yeah, it's I would be surprised to see the NACL teams make big changes spring this summer. I would
Yeah.
think because I mean I would be surprised to see most of the LCS changes make many changes spring
Well,
to summer.
yeah,
So
that's the thing. Unless there's a change for NACL where one of the players go up, right? Like unless it's because one of the players was picked up, let's say reach is gone and they take 30 on dig.
Yeah.
Like maybe that would be the change that I can see where Flycy has to look for a new top laner
Yeah,
or
Flycy
something
needs a
like
new
that.
top laner. They probably grab like a Phillip or a Tenacity, maybe
Yeah,
Zamudo.
maybe even take back Faisal.
Take back Faisal. Yeah. Although from what I hear, like it's up to like it's an interesting call as to whether like Supernova or Fly Challengers gives you like much of a better shot at like actually making LCS. But
True.
definitely true. Definitely true though. There's yeah, so I mean barring LCS changes, I would be surprised to see many roster
Yeah,
changes.
it's kind of the only part I can see as well.
Yeah. Well, let's get into looking at the rest of the bracket as that continues to play out. So we've got Disguised versus let's go through the lower bracket first and like try to discuss what we think that's going to look like. So we got DSG versus AoE as the first lower bracket matchup. 7th seed versus 8th seed, baby. But I think they've both shown up pretty differently, and it's like I feel like I can't get a beat on AoE anymore. Like they've actually played like 5 really good games in a row this last weekend. Like they played Fly pretty close, um, really close,
Yep.
and they just slammed Wildcard in the lower bracket. So it's kind of like I don't know. I mean, you mentioned that you like, were kind of giving it to DSG already earlier in the episode, but I kind of wonder with like
Oh,
AoE kind of finally figuring it out.
so no, I was guessing that is probably the right outcome, but I'm actually more on the side of AOE. I liked more what I saw from them because DSG had great first games, and then they floundered really heavily on the second one, and the third one always came to how close the enemy team was to them. And I honestly think they probably shouldn't have won against MU. I think MU should have won the third game anyway, and the third game from TLC they lost. So honestly, I'm more inclined on AOE because one of the big things to me that came through from AOE in their matches is that I think Wixie and Breezy are playing way better than they were before. Like they already were ramping up, like you guys mentioned before, but like I think this was one of their better performances coming into the playoffs. And having that consistent bot lane is going to be really, really important. The scary part is Samudo because I still think he's here and there. I'm not sure what to expect from Samudo, but I also don't think Tenacity has been impressing me in playoffs, even in the series that they won. So, like, if your bot lane can outperform DSG's bot lane, I can see them being able to take out DSG there.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree on like Zamudo is still Zamudo, man. He's not made the
Yeah,
jump that like I've been waiting for him to like, and I don't know. It feels like a futile gesture, but I've just been with a lot of these top laners, but I've just been waiting for him to just stop doing random TPs that loses whole team the whole game,
yeah.
and like that game too against FlyQuest where he's like on Rumble and he solo kills Surdy and he's like got so much control and then he just TPs in the middle of 5 people with nobody to help him and punts the whole game and makes it close. Like oh man,
Uh,
um. So I mean, Zamudo's the question mark for sure, but I think the
yeah,
big thing is like the meta is shifting in a, and we're patch locked now, right? For playoffs, we don't shift
yeah.
patches anymore.
It's 14, 15,
14-5, yeah.
14.5.
Jesus. Um, yeah, I think it's locked in 14-5 for all of playoffs. Um,
Yep.
so with that in mind, like the meta is shifting into AoE's favor. Like I think the fact that you can blind pick Ari is huge for Onat. And like the scaling carry meta, like I think Wixie's always been good on the Varus, and he still will play the on-hit Varus and be very good at it. But like he gets to play Jinx now, and he gets to play Zeri
Yep.
now, and he has like some really good games on those picks. He even busted out the Kog'Maw in game 1 against FlyQuest. That kind of went terribly, but the fact that they're like practicing it, right, and the fact that it's like in
Yeah,
their
they're having the
wheelhouse, and
tools.
yeah, and that the fact that they have it, right, as
Yep.
you know, if they win this series, they're going to start playing Fearless BO5s. And when you start playing Fearless BO5s, you got to start to dig into that pool a little bit. So I think like the fact that they
Yep.
have those in the tank, really, really impressive. Really, really good stuff. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they do up against DSG. DSG, I don't even know what to believe about DSG anymore. Like I think
That's the
Perry
best way to put it.
Perry looks way better. Perry looks way, way, way
Yeah.
better, and I will give them all the credit in the world for that. Um, yeah, I don't know. That series against TL, they like kept close. Um, but I think it's like other than like Manui and Poom got a little bit crushed bot lane in that series, and spawning Kim down looked like way more on point. So it's like, but then again, they were able to do well against the Maryville bot lane. So I have no idea like where to put DSG
The
in like.
flip is too much with them. Like that's why like the expected result should be DSG, but the realistic result is that they can come in and get 2-0'd by AoE just by virtue of we're not sure what they actually can perform on the day. Like their variance is way too high compared to other teams. And if you can lose really heavily to one bot lane, but then win one against one bot lane really heavily as well, just makes the dynamic really weird. And I'm not sure what to believe anymore. So I'd be willing to bet more on AoE's consistency with Wixie and Breezy than DSG's chaos and don't know what the hell is happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I might be in that camp as well. I think the X factor there is tenacity, though, right? Like, what
Yeah,
Zamudo do we get?
100%.
And if we get the wrong Zamudo, like tenacity will take over the game, right? Like I think tenacity's Renekton and his Gragas over this last week have been like MVP level performances and have like made a huge difference in how they've been able to close out these series and how they've been able to perform. So I think a lot of it, like tenacity's like a little back. Like I was very unimpressed with tenacity in the regular season. I think he's looked a lot better in playoffs so far. So now I'm very interested to see where things go from here for him. I think that's a big series to watch this week. I think that
Yeah.
could really swing either way and will be very interesting. Uh then Fear versus Maryville.
I'm actually so excited for that one because I really think Fear can take it.
I think they
I
can too. Like I think Fear could beat anyone on the right day, dude. Fear's
yeah,
crazy. Fear's a ridiculous team.
like
And
I
they're
would say
still
Fear
going
is
to
what
3 games
DSG wishes
every
to be.
goddamn series, even against Fly Challengers. They are going to 3 games every series, nearly without
But
fail.
see,
They are
this is why
maximizing
I
the amount of
told you
practice
about
they
Fear.
got.
Like Fear is a team you hate to love.
Yeah.
Every time it's every time you know it's going to happen, but that's the thing, it does give me more hope that Fear can perform because like I said, DSG is what Fear, or Fear is what DSG wishes to be, because yes, they can go to 3 games each time, but you know you're getting a really 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 close game that can be decided at any moment by Fear or by the enemy team. And I think maybe in regards to their mid lane, I think Toasty has been playing. He hasn't been playing badly or anything like that, but I feel like his spark is not the same as what it was at the start of the split. So hopefully, if he can perform really well against Pyrex, they can have that down coming into the matchup. And then I think a lot of this is going to come down between Chad and Gigi. Like whoever can get the best of the team going into that game can really perform, because weirdly enough they don't share a lot of champion pools or things like that, but they do have a similar mindset in how they approach the game. And I think whoever can get their game going can just completely control the dynamic of the series.
Yeah. I do also wonder it's interesting to me and like some of it's just getting targeted in draft, but like the pool for their bot lane is like radically changed for
Yeah.
playoffs, right? Like they're playing. I brought up earlier that they're playing the Senna Tom Kench now. I thought that looked great, by the way. Like Zyko's Tom Kench was fantastic. It was arguably the MVP of that game. But beyond that, they've been getting. I mean, Callisto's permabanned against them. They're getting
Yep.
occasional Lucian bans. Even when the Lucian gets through, it tends to not get picked. They like got one Zeri. They got one Varus game off, and they've been playing like a lot of Zeri. Other than that, it's interesting, and I feel like it's not really where they've found the most success. I don't think that's why they're losing, but it's like it feels like so much of the regular season was about them just being absolutely dominant in the 2-on-2, and I feel like they can't do that when they're playing like Senatom Kench or Zeri, whatever. And that makes me like a little concerned. Like I'm not gonna lie, like the fact that they're like just handshaking like Zeri Nautilus into like jinx lanes from Manui and stuff like that. Like I feel like that is not what I want these
Yeah.
guys to be doing based on the season that they've had.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing where against going against Scary Jerry and Psycho, right? Two players that we 100% believe are much stronger than where they were before is something to keep in mind because I do think that Lance and Daption can perform really well. But
Hmm.
the fact that they are taking such a weird approach compared to where they were before just makes it really difficult to try and assess in that sense. I do think though that the fact that they are taking more into the Seri, like you're mentioning, probably is a good thing because with the change into approach to more carry-oriented AD carries, having the Seri priority can work out for you, and then if you get the game out, then you can play the other hyper carries in a way. Senna is still there, so you can still play the Senna really well. Seri as well, you're going to see a bit more attention as well to maybe not the barriers, but let Jinx like you were mentioning. And there's other AD carries that you can kind of slip in and can perform really well. So I think that if they get down the idea that they want to play with their bot lane, then everything can work out much better for them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I actually like that. That matchup is going to be very interesting to me. I think because it's like Lens, I think, compared to players like Array and Manui, who they've played against so far, like Lens
Yep.
will, I think, result in like pinching that pool, like will challenge that champ pool even more. Because like
Yep.
Lens will contest you for the Callista rather than permabanning it, right? Like Lens will leave the Callista up on blue side and first pick it against you. And like clearly it seems like most everybody's kind of off the Lucian on this patch, which is whatever. But it's like Lens will like he'll pick the Kaisa into your Zeri and like try to
Yep.
assassinate you and stuff. And like those are things that I feel like Array and Manui will not do that Lens will do. And that makes me really wonder about how this matchup is going to swing in the bottom lane.
Well, there may be situations where we see more priority for a champions for lens to
Mm-hmm.
try and get that going, right? Because if you get an advantageous matchup in bot lane that you feel like it's going to be advantageous, then that way you can just propel that sort of play style coming in from lens. That being said, it's once again it's against the Scary Jerry and Psycho, two players that we have really high um, expectations for them would be the word, and the fact that they've been playing really well coming until this point, and they were able to perform really well against Supernova as well, is really important to how this matchup needs to go. So they Lance and Daption need to do really well.
Yeah. Last thing on this series is I do think this eyes on this is a potential breakout series for Toasty. Like I could see a
Yeah,
world where like I think it's I can see it going either way, right? I could see a world where Spyrax just like crushes Toasty and that ends it.
yeah,
Like maybe they go even and it doesn't even matter. I could see a world where Spyrax kind of like crushes Toasty in a couple of matchups, right? Like just goes, Hui into Toasty's Nico and just destroys him. Gets gets some solo kills in there. Doesn't let Nico play the game. Um, you know, I don't know. Beats his Oriana with something. Like I
yep,
can see that definitely happening. Like Toasty's, I would say largely predictable in his champion pool. You kind of know what he's going to play. He's going to play an Oriana game if he can get it. He's going to play a Nico game if he can get it. I think his ear is still disabled on the patch, so it's like that's not even in the conversation. So it's he'll play a Talia or a Karma or he's got a grab bag for the third game, but he'll play a game of Nico if you give it to him. He'll play a game
yeah.
of Oriana if you give it to him. So I think he's got kind of a predictable pool like that. So I could see a world where Spyrax is just like abusing him and really winning the lane. But I could also see like Spyrax isn't this kind of like unbeatable juggernaut in the mid lane either. Like I think he's one of the better mid laners in the league. But I
Yeah.
think like this could be Toasty's opportunity to like outperform him, clutch up in the playoffs, and I think really kind of like cement his status as like, maybe this guy is the next big NA mid. Uh,
The next pick, yeah, but
which I'd
like
love to
that could be
see.
his startup game. I think Toasty has it in him. Like I do think he has some a Chemple that can compete against Spyrax. Obviously, it's not super big, but he does have some tools that I like that can be played with. And a lot
He
of
has,
this, once
yeah,
again,
I think he has the full pool that you need. I don't
yeah,
mean to like say that it's limited. I think it's just predictable. I think he will go to the
yeah.
things that he likes.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
So like it's more so the fact that like you're mentioning, the fact that it's predictable makes it a little bit harder for you to match up against someone like Spyrex, but the fact that he does have a pool that can match up, I think does give him a bit of an opportunity, like you're mentioning. I think a lot of this also will come down to how not necessarily the team will play around it, but how he wants to enable the team in a way. Because Spyrex is a mid laner that can try and dominate the lane, but the more he plays with Yuji and he plays around the map, the better it is for MU. So I want to see if Toasty does something similar or he tries to outperform Spyrex in that sense as well. Work with Chad, move around the map, get things going for Fear, and try and just dominate the complete pace of the game.
Hmm. All right. Well, out of these four teams, who's your pick to be playing in lower bracket finals? Let's just
Ooh,
skip
that's a
straight to
good
the
one.
end, regardless of the results of individuals. Who's the best out of these four teams? Who's going to play against the loser of TLC Fly C?
So the safe bet would be to go for MU, and I think it's the one that makes the more sense. But I'm gonna go with Spicy. I think it's AOE.
You think it's AOE?
I'll go with AOE. I just think that they've shown really good improvement that I've liked, and their bot lane has been performing really, really well in my eyes. So if they can keep this up, Samuto stops being the dead weight that we've seen a bit, and I can see this team going up there. I also want to bring up Rostern. He's been really consistent as a jungler in so long, but like obviously he never gets this limelight. But I feel like he deserves the credit because he was at one point one of the main factors that made this team be anything, and at this point he's performing really well as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's interesting, right? Like Rosethorn's played stuff like the Kindred and stuff this season as well, which I tend to not associate with him, but I feel like he's been very good on it.
Yeah,
And nobody respects his Viego, but that's been like his best champion for forever. So
agree.
he's got like some of those additional layers when he has a team around him that can support them. Yeah, I will say I don't think there's any way it's DSG. I'm not going to necessarily say it's AoE, but I think even if DSG
Yeah,
takes down AoE, I think they would lose in a BO5 to Fear or MU. Yeah, I think
just
it's
so
probably
difficult to
MU.
look at that. Yep,
I think it's probably MU or it's going to be MU or Fear, I think. I think it's going to be whichever of
I
those
think it's
teams
fair.
wins out. I have a lot more faith in the BO5. I don't know why, cuz it's not like they're more flexible than a DSG or an AoE, but I feel like DSG and AoE have been so inconsistent that
Yep,
I just think they're gonna have their games. They're gonna have their int games in a BO5. Like it's just gonna happen, right? They're not gonna show up
exactly.
enough games in a row. And I think, if you keep rolling those dice, I think variance will hit you, and I would come up with Fear or Maryville in the
I also would
BO5.
say the experience on those two rosters does feel good to have in your back. Like DSG does have similar experience that you can have confidence in, but like Maryville, Xperex, and Judy has been in this situation, so like they probably are not going to break. Same for Niles that has played in the LCS, and then in Fear you had Chad and Philip and Lance as well. So you have players that can adapt to the experience, and in BO5 scenarios, I can feel more comfortable with them. Apart from the fact that they are more consistent, so it's not like you're going to be missing out with a great team anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about then Fly Challengers and TL Challengers before we get on to Aegis time. Um, Always comes down to these two, huh? it's the
Yeah,
it's the
weirdly
LCS
enough, yep.
affiliates. They're back. Uh, they
We
are in the
thought
winner's
they were
side
going to
final.
go down, and they don't.
Yeah, I think Fly Challengers wins this for sure. Like I think this team. It's so crazy that this team has played 6 games so far. It's
Yeah,
like it doesn't
it's
feel
actually
right given how good of a team I think they are. But I am not shaken in my faith. I still think they are,
that's fair.
and it's like Team Liquid has played 6 games so far too. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah,
like I think like the Team Liquid has dropped games to Supernova Undisguised, the same way Fly has dropped games to AOE and Fear. I feel like TL's played harder opponents by nature of them being a lower seed, but I just think the buck stops here. I think it's going to be a Fly Challengers sweep. Like I just cannot I think Team Liquid
Oh,
Challenges
you're
has
going for
gotten
the
a lot
sweep?
better. I'm not going to be picking them to be enough against FlyQuest. I just
You're
think
going for the sweep?
yeah, like I think if you
Okay.
asked me to make a prediction on the record, I would think I would say FlyQuest 3-0. I think like and maybe they drop some games here, but I just think it's like pound for pound, I just cannot see this going Team Liquid's way. It's
So
just like I think
yeah,
Team
I do
Liquid's their
agree.
best asset has been Roamer and his skill in
Yeah,
lane, and I just don't think you're gonna be able to do that stuff against Quad.
the
And I
quote
think
unquote MVP.
yeah, like I think that top side strength for TL is not gonna be enough. I think it would have to be like Spawn and Kim down, just coming up huge in the 2-on-2, and I have more faith in Sejed than that. I think Sejed and Chime are a much stronger bot lane than any they have faced thus far. And I don't think, I don't think their Team Liquid's going to be able to eke out an advantage really anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I am going to go actually for a 3-2 in favor of Flycy as well. Like, I think Flycy qualifies, but I think TLC can inch out some wins. And this is a lot coming from Bertul on their jungler. Because I think Kill is more consistent than Shaden. And this is not saying Shaden is bad or anything like that, but Shaden has his games where he just kind of turns off and autopilots a lot of the game where I think I can see someone like Kiel taking full advantage out of that, taking control of the game really early on, and then giving Roamer the space to be Roamer. Which I don't think that he'll win a straight up 1v1, but if you have Kiel on your back consistently to push that advantage in your favor, then I can see them taking 1 or 2 games. Like you're mentioning though, I do think that pound for pound, just Flycy is way better. And I do think they should be able to inch out the BO5 victory.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Then do you think they run it back for finals? I guess is the other question. Or do you think? I guess you're picking AOE. Do you think AOE could do it against Team Liquid?
I think it's going to be Flycy AOE finals.
You think it's gonna be Fly
I'm
C
going all
AOE
the way there.
finals?
Yeah.
I would love to see that. I think I will probably end up picking Team Liquid against whoever comes to face them in the lower final. Like I think my best team to pick against Team Liquid would have been Supernova. Uh and they played that 3-game series earlier on that just doesn't go over
Yep.
to Supernova, and now they're out of there. So it's like I don't know. Maybe if Maryville shows up on the right on the day and they've like got everything together, where like Niles is playing well and like Scary Jerry and Zyko figure out whatever they got going on in the bot lane, or they're like Senatom Kench is just absolutely ridiculous and that it's always going to be as good as it was last week. Um, if that's the case, good on them.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I have my doubts in them by default. I have my doubts in anybody to beat Team Liquid
I think it's
based on
fair.
what we've seen so far in the bracket, but other teams, showing up on forms we have not yet seen could do it. But I think I would probably predict it to be
Agreed.
a Fly TL grand final in the studio.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Fly TL going against each other like if they were playing normal LCS.
Exactly. The which was a good series. That was a good series
Yeah.
in LCS. Hopefully, it'll be a good long series
Hopefully it's
for the
repeatable.
NACL finals as well.
Yep.
All right. Well, that should sum up the playoffs. Let's get into Aegis time. Let's run through the Aegis groups from the last week. Chat about our upcoming match of the week. And let me double check what our match of the week is, just so I can make sure that I am correct about it. Uh, do do
Wasn't
do.
it Maryville B team?
Yeah, it's gonna be the Maryville B team match, which is Maryville B team versus Clown Gaming. So we'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay.
All right. Let's start off with the Demacia Group. So with week 4, Team Fish Taco 2-0's Interstellar Yappers. Abandoned Kittens take a 2-1 over Cerulean's Kittens in the Kitten Civil War, which I do believe Slayer cast on his channel. I did not catch that, so it's a shame that he's not here to be able to talk about that
Yep.
match, but it does go over to the Abandoned Kittens. Shaboing Boing take a 2-1 over Gravity. So Gravity are our favorites, our boys from the featured match at week number 3 end up dropping in to Shaboing Boing Esports, and then Zora Esports takes a 2-1 win in the cross group over Next Level Esports. So that's going to give our current standings, as I guess we should check in now, as we're about a little past the midway point. Cerulean's Kittens is 3-1. Gravity is 3-1. Team Fish Tacos 2-1. Abandoned Kittens is 2-1. And Shaboing Boing is 2-1. Looking like contenders here. So there's 5 teams that are like in contention for those top 4 spots.
So yeah, ignoring next level, like the group actually became, or next level and Interstellar, the group became much closer than it should be, actually. So like there's good competition here. I still think that we probably have the advantage going for Gravity, Corellians, and TFT, but putting into the mix Boing Boing, it could be a really interesting one.
Yeah.
I am surprised though with Gravity. The fact that they lost, it's kind of surprising, and it was a 2-1, but like, is this the end of the honeymoon phase from Gravity? Perhaps, like, is that what we should guess from here, or is Shaboing being much better than we
Yeah,
guessed
hang on. I
initially?
have my post-match screenshots here. I want to see what happens.
Okay.
So, game number 1, Haxor goes 7-1-3 on the Garen top. With the
Okay.
like Triforce Stridebreaker build, he beats out Spencer. Well, Spencer out farms and out golds, but or no, does not out gold. Spencer out farms, but is otherwise
Yep.
kind of shut out of the game. And Urazan appears to be trying to scale on the Smolder, and game goes 35 minutes, so he must kind of get there, but I guess it's just not enough.
They. Yep.
And then
Didn't matter.
the Jinx hyperscaling, then they lose the game to Decker with a 13-3-10 Nico game. Haxor again goes 11-3-5 on the Olaf though. So kind of popping off up against Spencer on the day. And then this is I don't recognize the okay, so that is Tarim. That is Tarim in the jungle. He's just got the he's got the 2 characters as his name, the Korean characters rather than his name, but it is they don't have any subs in or anything. And game number
Yep.
3, Sage of Paths busts out the Anivia. Looks like they just play like a clean, controlled game across the board. I mean, good stuff. I mean, nothing too wild and no substitutes or anything. I mean, props to Shaboing Boing, man. They come up huge. And they just,
Yeah, important victory to keep their dreams alive at the very least. Now, like, once again, this makes the group be much, much more interesting than it was.
yeah. So, Abandoned Kittens redeem themselves a little bit this week because they take down
Yep.
Cerulean's Kittens, which is huge for them. And now Cerulean's Kittens have to play Shaboing Boing, which I normally would say is definitely in Cerulean's Kittens camp, but now I don't know what to think
Yeah,
because of
and this could actually make the
because of
like.
transitive property. And then Shaboing Boing will play Team Fish Taco, which is also going to be very tough. Hopefully, Team Fish Taco continue to compete as their full roster, even though they were
Yep.
eliminated from NACL queues. And then Shaboing Boing plays next level in the last week. So
Well, technically now they pretty much only have an ACL, so if they want some money, they have to keep it. They have to
that's
play
true.
even
That's
more
true.
serious here.
Yeah, and then Gravity still has to play their cross group, and then Gravity comes back and
Yeah.
plays Cerulean's Kittens and Team Fish Taco. So Gravity have got to like kind of keep the magic alive if they want to live up to the expectations they set for themselves in their featured match back in Week 3. But this
Yep.
group has gotten interesting now.
I'm actually more excited because if Sheboygan actually does beat Carillion, that Team Fish Taco matchup is going to be so exciting to see.
Definitely. All right, well, let's move on to Noxus. Noxus in week number 4. Clean sweeps across the board. We got Polestar Academy 2-0 over Kosa Gamers. UCI Varsity 2-0 over 5 seasons. Dorado Gaming 2-0 over Novosphere. And then in the cross group, Vespa take a 2-0 over Briarcliff. So, standings wise, UCI Varsity sitting on top at 4-0. They
Yep.
are, I believe, probably locked in. Polestar Academy sitting at 2-1, so they're looking pretty good. And then Kosa and Dorado both at 2-2, and Vespa in 5 seasons at 1-2. Nova Spirit 0-3. So the question is kind of going to be here. Like 5 seasons was a team that we were kind of hyped on coming into the season.
Yep.
Will they be able to put it together and make it out, especially with the roster changes they've made, where they now have CK Reborn in mid, Season of Leaves role swapped to bot lane, and Animosity in at top. This feels like it's a mess. I feel like they cannot. They're
Yeah.
they're having a tough time.
it feels like a desperate change, and I don't think it's going to be enough. Like UCI pretty much locked in. I do think Dorado and Cosa are kind of. I would be willing to put them in that spot where I feel more confident in them, particularly Dorado, because they took the losing record before, but like now they are playing, so it should be fine for them. And then Polestar is a team that I do have a bit more confidence. So I do think that those top four is the top four here is kind of more straightforward, just because of how the teams feel in how they've played.
Yeah. So I mean, here's the thing with that, right? Is so Five Seasons plays Kosa, Vespa,
Yep.
and Polestar. So I mean, on paper, you would predict them to beat Vespa and Kosa. That would
On
bring them up
paper,
to
yeah.
3 wins total. Dorado, because of the spot they inherited, they have their cross group next week, and then Dorado has UCI Varsity and Polestar. So
Yep.
Dorado kind of has to pull off an upset or hope that Five Seasons drops matches that you would expect them not to try to make it out. So I do kind of wonder if like inheriting that rough record, like we talked about for Dorado, will end up making a difference here.
Makes it a little bit more difficult, but I do think like Dorado has the advantage that I think they can take one of the two.
Hmm.
Like UCI is already kind of qualified, so I can see them being more willing to give up matches, although securing the first seed is still good enough. But I can see them dropping one of these matches here and there just because they are kind of already secured.
That's fair. I think that's definitely possible. And it's like, I think Dorado's like a good enough team, right, that they could beat UCI Varsity or Polestar Academy on the right day. Like
Yeah,
I saw
I
their
agree.
series up against Wang's Revenge. I thought they looked really good. Um, yeah, I think they had a shot at being a not a well, yeah, that was a qualifier series for top 8, was it not? Am I
Yeah,
crazy? Yeah, so I mean
I
they had a shot at being a top 8 team. I'm gonna go check if I'm making that up because I feel like it
yeah, I
wasn't,
think
but
they
maybe it
were,
was.
but I'll check as well. Okay,
Uh
no, they were looking
oh no, that
for
was to play against Ole Miss, so they were
yeah, all
probably
against
doomed.
Ole
They
Miss.
were probably doomed either way, but they had a chance at being in like in a match to make top 8. Like they could have been top 12, right? Um, so and that makes a difference, right? They had a shot at making
Yeah,
top 12. That's better than like UCI were able to get for themselves. I think there was something to be said for the
shots
opportunity they had there.
fired.
I think they have a shot. I'm not counting them out, but they're going to be games to keep an eye on, and they're going to be games that may very well end up in the featured match list, like Dorado Gaming Polestar Academy Week 7. Dorado's playoff life on the line. That very well may be a
Could be,
featured
yeah.
match in the future.
Yeah, the excitement is there. So I think this is a group also to keep eyes closed or close eyes into. I don't think Five Seasons is going to make it just because of the roster change that feel a bit desperate. But overall, I like the way that this group is also setting up.
Infinitely. Getting on to Piltover. Piltover, week number 4. Maryville B team take a 2-1 over Capachunkus. So Capachunkus took a game. Look at Capachunkus go, dude. Clown Gaming 2-0 over Bethany. Zora Esports 2-1 over Next Level in the cross group. And then Chaotic Solar versus the Pack has not yet been played.
Yeah.
Um, so that leaves our current group standings. Maryville and Clown Gaming at the top at 3-0. That will be our featured match this coming Friday. So probably tonight at the time this releases, because this will probably come out Friday morning. Um, so that's going to be an exciting one. Then we have Chaotic Solar at 2-1, and then Zora Esports at 1-2, Capachungus at 1-3, Bethany at 1-3. So kind of not a clear contender for fourth in this group yet, but I think Chaotic Solar, Clown Gaming, and Maryville all looking pretty strong to be able to make playoffs.
Well, Chaotic Solar still has to play, right? So
They still have to play the
when
pack,
it,
but I'm gonna
yeah, the
predict they're
pack.
gonna beat the pack. Like we've gotten to see
Yeah,
some
they
Chaotic
should
Solar
be able
already.
to beat it. So, like you're pointing out, probably top three feels like one of the more secured ones,
Yeah.
just because those three teams are probably ahead of the other. So yeah, it's more so who can be the lesser bad in the group to
Mm-hmm.
reach fourth place. It's kind of how I'm reading this.
I agree. Like Chaotic Solar versus Bethany in week 6 will be an important matchup here.
Yep.
Um, Yeah, and then we'll kind of see how the rest play out. I'm kind of interested. I'm interested in Capuchungus now. With like they took that one game over. They took a game over Maryville. They took a game over Bethany. Um, yeah, so I don't know. And then they beat the Pack. So I kind of like have
Yep.
one eye on Capuchungus. Zora Esports, I think, starting to look better with their win against Next Level. They dropped to a Maryville B team, but that should be expected, and they beat Bethany as well. So I think Zora was kind of the team we had pegged as one to potentially make it into fourth, and they have like the easiest back half of their schedule. They play
Did they
Capuch.
beat Bethany when they were
No, I
when
think
they
they beat
were?
Bethany when they were Bethany.
So okay, so yeah, because I was thinking if they got the win from the previous one or if they got Bethany, but yeah.
Oh, you know what? No, I think you're right. I think no, yeah, because Bethany
Yeah,
came
it's
in
almost
super
sure.
early. Bethany came in really early. So I think because Bethany was the team that was formerly Mirage.
Yeah.
So Bethany came in for week one. I don't think Bethany missed any. Or Bethany
Okay.
forfeited week one to Maryville, I think, and then after that they've been there.
Yeah, I think they did one, but I wasn't sure which matchup they
They
forfeited. So
forfeited to
if it's in
Maryville,
week
I
one,
believe.
yeah.
I believe they
Okay.
played against Zora. So Zora's got a
Okay,
pretty
so they
easy
did
back half of
lose.
their schedule. They have Capuchungus, they have Clown Gaming, which is going to be tough, and then they have the Pack in week 7, who have yet to
Yeah,
win.
technically they have the qualification in their hands
Yeah.
because they just need to win 2.
Yep. So I think they have a solid shot at doing it. Who do you have in Clown Gaming versus Maryville B team for the featured match?
I think Clown wins, but 2-1.
In Clown Gaming 2-1. I
I think Clown is probably the better team.
think I could get behind that. Yeah, I think it really depends on. I have not gotten to see any of Kachu 80 carry. Clearly, it has not been too tough for them. They have a 6-1 game record.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll be an interesting one.
They do have Evan RL anyways in the
On the
sub, so they
bench,
could
yeah.
technically put him in whenever they feel like Catch is not delivering, but like it certainly hasn't been a problem for them.
Agree, yeah. I mean, like, Odd Orange Get Back definitely feels dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like that former NACL duo, but I don't know, man. I've really liked what I've gotten to see out of Rough Beans in the last couple of weeks. They got that 6-2 game record so far. They've been doing really well. Boil the Oil, Rapid Zev, Cryogen. I don't know. I like this team. It's an easy team to root for. It'll
Yeah.
be cool to
It's a
see.
team you want to see succeed.
Yeah, it's a team I want to see succeed as well. It'll be a fun match to watch for sure. Hopefully it goes to 3, but definitely going to want to catch that one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into Zaun then and wrap up for the night. Zaun in week number 4. You got BlackRock Esports take a 2-0 over University of South Florida. Aporia take a 2-1 over CCG. MSU A team take a 2-0 over Glacial. And then in the cross group, Vespa takes a 2-0 over Briarcliff. And then Briarcliff versus BlackRock is rescheduled for tomorrow. That has not yet been played. I don't know when that was supposed to be for. Was that supposed to be? That was like a week 2 match that got rescheduled
Yeah, could be
forever
a no
ago.
one.
So standings for now are going to be Aporia and MSU A team at the top at 3-1 apiece. BlackRock Esports at 2-0. CCG at 2-1. And then the rest. South Florida's at 1-3. Briarcliff's at 0-2. Glacial's at 0-3. Glacial having that old Masters GM team in Uncap League thing that we talked about in the preseason a
The
little
wake up
bit.
call.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, man. I want one of those teams to be able to come up here and like actually perform really well, but not now, not here. It doesn't look like it. At least they are struggling. MSU A team though, putting together quite the set of results
Yeah.
so far. I know they've been doing all right in CLOL as well. I keep seeing them in like the CLOL hub like results tweets and stuff. Like they've been doing pretty decently in their CLOL run as well. I think they are in playoffs. I am saying this
Okay.
like completely without any like real source. I should have probably done a little bit more prep in that, but
It's okay. It's Silo. We
yeah,
don't do that
their
much prep
Twitter doesn't
there.
have anything about it. I'll check it out, but I'll look into it when I can. But I've heard that they're doing pretty well, and they're doing well here. I mean, they have
Yeah,
certainly been able to take down. Have they beaten anybody like super dangerous yet? They took down Glacial. They lost to CCG. They beat South Florida, and they beat Briarcliff. So they've only really beaten other CLOL teams. So we'll see how they
yeah, the
do.
lesser ones.
They have the cross group with Dorado this next week, and then they
This
will
could be an
play.
actual test for them, though.
Yeah, and then
Like
they'll play
going against
Aporia, and
Dorado
then
is
they'll
an
play
actual test.
BlackRock. So they're gonna have a tough back half.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I just think though they are kind of qualified at this point because it's between them. Obviously, BlackRock still has to play some games. Aporia kind of looks like it's already secured as well. And I would say CCG with the changes they did, I think it's looking much more positive. Or at the very least, they should be better than the lower teams.
Yeah.
So MSU having to play Aporia and BlackRock still is kind of difficult. But like this going against Dorado is a really good test to see where they actually stack up.
Yeah. That'll be a good test for them, especially one that doesn't have too much to do with the standings.
Yeah.
And then they'll come back and they'll play Aporia and BlackRock, and we'll see where things shake out. I agree with you. I think they're pretty much locked in. Like, I don't expect South Florida, Briarcliff, or Glacial to beat anybody except for each
Yeah.
other. And that will put them all at 2 or fewer wins, and will put MSU on top with 3 wins. I think the question is going to be, right, can MSU, having already lost to CCG, who I would say is the weakest out of the rest, like I would say BlackRock and Aporia are both stronger than CCG.
Yep.
Having already lost to CCG, the question is going to be, like, can MSU somehow pull something off and, like, take a win over BlackRock or Aporia or something and be third instead of fourth? Like, I think that's the remaining question for Zaun. But I think this group is pretty, like, firmly decided.
Yeah, I think it's one of the least open ones compared to the other
Which
groups,
is
I feel
funny because
like.
this was like the CLOL group. This was like the group that was going to
Yeah,
be really competitive between all the CLOL teams. But it seems like MSU A team is just like the best one by a fair bit.
it's unlucky, but yeah, it's the case.
All right. Well, this will be a fun week of Aegis. I'm definitely looking forward to the Maryville B team versus Clown Gaming featured match. I'm looking forward to this weekend of NACL playoffs. So definitely tune into both of those and tune into the Aegis Champions League, as well as the NACL qualifiers, which will be on the Aegis channel on Saturday. We are doing a semifinal TDS. What semifinal are we
I
doing?
sent it CCG Winthrop, I think it is.
Yes, I believe we are covering CCG versus Winthrop. So that'll be fun. That'll be a great series. We will not be on the
The
finals
brave
on
the
Sunday. That's just going to be
It's
Grapes and
kind of
Bog.
the finals though.
It's a little
We
bit
have
like
to
the
say that it's
finals.
kind of the finals, but it's not
I
the
think
finals,
whoever
but
wins
it's
it will win the
technically the
tournament. I
finals.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, CCG really needs the win here to try to get top 4.
Yeah.
So this will be really cool. I'm excited. Yeah, so that's going to be an awesome series. Definitely want to check that one out as well. Stay tuned to everything you got for NACL, NACLQs, and Aegis Champions League. Thanks again to Aegis for sponsoring, as always, and we'll see you guys next week.